they could have a privacy and security officer that's sitting there going, I've been trying to tell y'all. I mean, you never know.
You're listening to the Help Me with HIPAA podcast, where HIPAA and humor collide to make learning fun. Your delightful hosts are Donna Grindle and David Sims. Relax. HIPAA help is on the way.
Welcome to episode 372 of the Help Me with HIPAA podcast. My name is David Sims of HIPAA Buffalo MSPs. And join us, Donna from Carbon.
Did you say HIPAA or MSP?
HIPAA. It doesn't matter how you spell it, because we bought both of them. It'll get you there.
Yeah, we just accept that it can't always be done, but we must teach.
I know. So, yeah, I figured, you know what? If you don't know how to spell it, then you need to still be able to find it. So, yes, either way, so. You get there.
Okay, then.
So what you got going on?
Oh, nothing much. Nothing much. Just keeping all the balls in the air.
Yeah.
Plate spinning, balls juggling.
Yeah.
And
about that time of the year. All the fall festivals.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'll call it that.
Yeah. But we do need to remind everybody that we had a bit of a hiccup with the PriceSec boot camp. You can listen to last week's episode.
That's going to get, we have to come up with.
Oh, yeah. That's a bit of a.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a. Yeah. Okay.
That ain't cutting it, David.
Yeah. That won't go too well with our session hiccup.
Look, some things happened. One thing led to another, and we had rescheduled now. Our PriceSec boot camp is March 12th, 13th, 14th, and 15th. So it's a Sunday afternoon. Enjoy your Sunday afternoon with us. Ta-ta-ta-ta. Mm-hmm. And then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So 3 full days, a half day on Sunday, and the fire hose will be shooting. So,
as always.
Yes. So if the previous date was the reason that you couldn't join us, go check it out and join us now in Louisville, March 12th through the 15th. And I don't know how the weather will be, but we're going to be working so hard. Schedule the weekend and the last 2 days to do your fun things up there. That's what I would do.
Yep. And it'll be fun.
I'll be sleeping because I'll be exhausted.
You'll be in recovery mode.
All right. So go to PriceSecBootCamp.com.
It's all there. Out. Yeah. Now you do have to spell that one right. We don't have any other way to get you there.
Privacy Security Boot Camp. I don't know if you go to the HIPAA Boot Camp, do we redirect to this now?
I don't think so.
Well, we should, David.
I don't know.
I think you should make sure that happens.
I think you should ask if somebody can make sure that's working. I don't know.
David, can you make sure that's working?
Can you put a ticket in?
Put a ticket in for that. Well, let's see.
That's what I should get. We should sell shirts at the event that says you'll have to put a ticket in for that.
I think you're right. All right. So, yes, wow. A lot of people now try to do this. I haven't Googled it since we started. No one was really doing it, but yeah, you need to change it. But tons of people now have their versions. A 3-day one, but none of them are going to include us. None of them are going to include the PriceSec Boot Camp. Not only does it include us, but we've been doing this for a while. Mm-hmm. We have narrowed it down. We have it fine-tuned, and we have our partners that are working with us now to bring in even more knowledge to be dropped on you and spread it out. So check it out at
PriceSecBootCamp.com.
Don't forget, PriceSec is privacy and security, because we're going too many places.
Yep.
So there you go.
You should always secure your privates. Okay, that takes us to our next segment, which is the HIPAA Say What?
He's not recording in his studio lately where we have the ability to say what?
Yeah, I can't do that one.
Okay.
So we talked about in a previous episode when we talked about the metapixels a few weeks ago that there was an improper PHI disclosure and it affected some health systems. And lo and behold, guess what happened? We're starting to see notification letters. And so one made it to my desk from Novant Health, which is in my locale. And so it's interesting how they portrayed the problem. They've got like 3 or 4 paragraphs about what happened and then 2 sentences about what they're doing about it. But I say that because there's not a whole lot they can do about it. They can either take it away or add it back. This is something that's controlled by Meta, also known as Facebook. But I did find it interesting that they, in the discussion of what had happened, they said, unfortunately, the pixel was configured incorrectly. And I paused and said, I don't think it was. I think that's the way it was intended to function. It's just you shouldn't have put it where you put it.
I don't think there is. Yeah.
So anyway, once these places found out, they took action, which is what they're supposed to do. And I also have to say that they talked about as their response to this is that they're going to implement more structure, more governance, and more policies to make sure this doesn't happen again. To which I say, I don't think any of those 3 would have saved you from this.
Yeah, I'm not seeing that happen.
So, I mean, I get it. You got to send out a notification and you got to tell people you're doing something. But it's just one of those times where, a third-party vendor, something or another, has got you in trouble. And it's hard to dodge those bullets like that. Your vendors can mess you up.
They will mess you up.
Yep. So anyway, if you haven't received a letter and you think you probably should be getting a letter, then certainly check your calendar. Make sure it's within 60 days of when it happened or when they were notified, which is probably the same time that everybody else was notified, and go from there. But yeah.
Yeah. The important thing is to note they are notifying.
Yeah.
Now, what they're saying in the notification is going to vary from place to place, but the good news is nobody, because I think, at the time we were like, are they going to, tell people about this? Looks like some of them are, and it will certainly be calling out any who aren't.
Yeah.
I think.
So nobody has yet to say in any organization, including Meta, that this information has been, used in any way.
What's the verbiage? Meta would always tell you they don't.
It's not been used in any way. We don't know. We don't need it. We just have it just in case. Just trust us. We're not going to do anything with it.
No, did they? I don't recall seeing anything about how to, get the data out. They're just saying we're not going to get any more in.
Yeah. Like, can you give us some assurance that it was deleted or anything?
I don't see. Anyway, that's a thing.
Yeah. No, we have it and we'll keep it safe for you.
You can trust us.
Yes. After
we're
all.
Meta.
We have MetaTrust.
Yeah.
All right. Maybe that'll be their privacy arm, MetaTrust.
Oh no, don't even. Don't. That's just no.
I'm MetaTrust certified.
Nah.
Alrighty. So anyway, that's that. Now, our topic for today, trashy privacy violations.
It was there. I had to use it. It's trashy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Look, as many times as I've had conversations with people who have literally gone dumpster diving to retrieve things that were inadvertently thrown away. Even gone down to the dump to see if they could try to identify their pile that they think went in there.
Now, I'll admit now, when I was a kid, that was something that you did when you went to dump your trash off. Like you looked around to see, is there anything somebody put out here that is of value to me? And so, I'm just saying, I grew up in poor town in the South. We didn't have a lot of things to do to keep us busy. So.
Yeah, well, okay. We'll just leave it at that.
I'm not saying we went dumpster diving necessarily, because some people set stuff outside the dumpster. But I am saying there were some treasures to be found sometimes.
Treasures. I love it.
So, and apparently there are treasures to be found today in dumpsters, at least some that amount to a $300,000, value.
Yeah, this one is not a pretty sight. And as soon as I saw it, I'm like, how is this even... Oh, how did this? The dates on it. We talk about how long these things take. So I'm thinking, oh, this must be back from 2014. Because they're talking about putting PHI in the trash. Everybody's seen it on the news by now.
You would think.
Clearly not. We are wrong. Because, well, this is New England Dermatology, PC, DBA, New England Dermatology and Laser Center, NDELC. Look, it's New England Dermatology. We're just going to go with that. Okay, if we have to say the name again, and try not to get tongue-tied. So this came out August 23rd, and there were two big things I noticed pretty much right away.
Mm-hmm.
Just reading the press release. Two things I noticed right away. The amount was like, ouch. You can't manage your trash properly, and it cost you $300,640 in the settlement. Can you imagine what the violation, the actual civil money penalties they said? Well, this is what we could do if we're going to penalize you, or you could do this beautiful 2-year corrective action plan with this much lower amount of $300,000 and $640. That's the important part. The $640. I don't know how calculation works, but this is what we always call the low hanging fruit.
Mm-hmm.
And I know a lot of people hate to use those buzzword terms, but what else you gonna call it if you can't manage to make sure PHI ain't going in the trash? So there's that. And I'm like, okay, how this has to be old. It's all these things. And then I do the second thing is, what's the message they want us to get? Because we always talk about what is the message. And that's always the OCR director's official statement for the press release.
Right.
And David always gets to read them. So you just go ahead, read it, and then you point out the same thing that we both went, hey.
So it reads, improper disposal of PHI creates an unnecessary risk to patient privacy. HIPAA-regulated entities should take every step to ensure that safeguards are in place when disposing of PHI to keep it from being accessible by the public. Simple. Then I look at the name and I'm like, who's this? Who's Melanie Fontes Rayner?
I know. Me
It's
too.
the acting OCR director. I'm like, I thought we already had somebody that was OCR director. What happened?
I agree. Like Lisa Pino was just the OCR director on the last announcement like a month ago.
I know.
And I didn't see anything really happening. So I had two things to look into.
And the first one was, who's the OCR director?
I know. When did this happen? How did we miss this?
I know.
This is not things we normally would miss.
No, because they didn't copy us on the memo.
I know. I want to know why we weren't copied, number one. So let's first just go ahead and, we'll talk about, that number two thing because, I mean, we were absolutely taken off guard, but it appears that there was never an announcement, no big announcement, and even searching for it, I only found one place. It looks like this two different articles, but the same source. So I was looking at, that's the only place that we even see that they said that Melanie Fontes Rayner is appointed as the acting OCR director, and it proceeds to tell us all about her. Yep. It doesn't tell us anything about Lisa Pino. The last announcement from OCR, that had her name on it was July 15th. But since then, there's nothing else with her name. It's completely dark.
Yeah. So, Lisa, call me. I need to know what's up.
But, we're all about privacy here. So we're not going to go into any kind of speculation. There's a reason this is being kept, not making a big deal about it. And whatever that may be, hopefully, it's nothing bad. But to just disappear like that is concerning for our industry because she had just really, because it took forever. The confirmation process is taking forever on everything. And she was in place in September. And apparently by July or August, there's a new director, and it's an acting director, meaning may not stay. And she's an advisor to the HHS Secretary Barreras. I think that's his, for some reason, I just see Xavier like we're on first name basis. X-Men, how you doing? So, that's going to be uncomfortable if when we're in our meetings in DC in a few weeks that, or at the beginning of November. Sup, X? How you doing? You see. But anyway, we are noting that there is one. And hopefully, the new director gets appointed. But whenever there's an acting director, things ground to a halt because everybody's trying to figure out what's going on, what we're supposed to do. So that's concerning, and we must address that the leadership is important for them to be able to truly do enforcement and provide the guidance that we need on things like recognized security practices, the NPRM that's been on hold. I mean, there's a million things that we need, and whatever the reason, it is a problem for us in the long run. But we wish everybody the best, whatever that may be. We're going to keep it private because clearly that's what it's all about. Unless somebody gives us a scoop and says we don't have to, we can tell everybody. If David gets his call, which we all know.
Never know.
Probably not going to happen. He's always had trouble getting people calling back.
I know. Still waiting on
Hand
anonymous.
out your digits, buddy. Hand out your digits.
Any nation state hacker, you want to give me a call. or any OCR directors. We can put y'all in touch.
Okay. So back to New England dermatology. Let's go to what happened. Because remember here, I said that, surely this one's one of the really old ones. No, it should have been an old one, but it's not an old one.
Well, it's kind of both.
It is an old one, but it shouldn't be. Really and truly, this should have been resolved long ago. Here's the story. On May 11th, 2021, let's make note, 2021. Right away, I'm like, that's pretty recent.
Yep.
More recent than I expected for a 2022 resolution agreement to be nailed down. So they filed a breach notification report saying that, quote, empty specimen containers that were labeled with PHI were placed in a dumpster located in their parking lot. I didn't do it literally quotes, but anyway. So you think, oopsie, got a new employee, new cleaning service. No. All of their specimens contained a label with the corresponding PHI. And it said the patient name, the date of birth, the collection, and the name of the provider who took the specimen. So, and you probably got a clue about the specimens. So, and in dermatology, they take a wide variety of things. So they tell them on May 11th that on March 31st, 2021, one container was found in the parking lot by a third-party security guard.
Ruh-roh.
So that's the date of discovery. March 31st, 2021. So the good news is, May 11th, they didn't wait a full 60 days to go ahead and fess up. But here's where this is where the problem really comes into play, because they have been doing this for several years. And you may say, how many years? 10 years. February 4th, 2011. And I don't know how they pinned down that date, but they must have had something changed on that day until March 31st, 2021.
It's probably when
they
it
had
opened.
been throwing away. Huh?
It's probably when they opened.
No, right?
It's another one of those. It's another one of those. We've always done it this way. What's the problem?
Okay, yeah, you're right. That could be it. So, 10 years. They have been throwing away the specimens with the labels on it with all the PHI on it. Just throwing it away. Who knows what could have happened with any of that stuff? Who knows? I mean, there's just no way of knowing. 10 years. And you just talked about looking at the dump to see if there's anything you could use.
I know. I was obviously in the wrong dumpster.
Yeah, and this is in the dumpster where it's in the parking lot, openly available to anybody.
Yeah.
So, anyhow, that doesn't look good. That doesn't look like you've got a program that you're fully on top of. And I have lots of questions.
Yeah.
My first question is, was it because the security guard found it that prompted them to report it? Because at that point, they think that there was a disclosure that was unauthorized.
Yeah.
Which is not better at all.
Yeah. So for them, it's like, wait a minute, throwing them in the dumpster wasn't a problem. It was the fact that the security guard saw it was the problem.
We dropped one and the security guard found it.
Yeah.
We have one patient we need to
Right. So they're like, just notify OCR. It's just one patient. What's the worst that can happen?
Yeah, because they never really said. So it's either that or it's the first time anybody actually looked and realized they were doing it. So that triggered we're doing that from the people that knew better, and no one had clearly taken in that. So, we talk about disposal of stuff. Everybody worries about disposing of hard drives and all that. Where are you putting your trash?
Well, it's just like you brought up. If you have a proper privacy and security program, there's almost no way you wouldn't have known this long ago. This was not something you should do. So, they're doing the check the box compliance, or they're doing nothing at all. But I don't see. You just listen to this podcast, you would know you can't do that. So it just points out a lot of problems in their approach to privacy and security.
Yeah, they probably have. Everybody's got certified HIPAA trained
on their website
things on there. Yeah, but anyway,
I'll go check while you talk.
Okay. So OCR said, wait a minute, what? You dropped some trash? And so I don't know that, based on this narrow piece of information, we don't have all the deets. But it says to me, ouch. It explains a lot. Yeah, it is old. it's been going on all that time. So really, that explains why it turned around so quickly, because there's no argument. There's no amount of forensics or investigations or any of those things that you could claim other than we have totally foobarred this situation, to use a technical term, and somebody's going to have to work this out. So you just go hat in hand and beg forgiveness. And this was the best they could get, so that says a lot. But 10 years, and no one's caught it? And how many times should you be evaluating your disposal in 10 years? Oh, about at least 10 times.
Yeah. Well, this is not a small organization now that I pull up their site. There's multiple locations, multiple.
Does it say when they were established?
1954.
Okay, so
yeah, they've been throwing it away a long time. Yeah, it could be that particular location, maybe. That
I don't know,
but yeah,
it's not clear at all, because if they have all, this doesn't talk about whether or not they were doing it at all the locations. This just says they reported it. It could have been happening, and maybe this location opened then, and they started doing it. But again, why?
They do have a NPP that was revised March 26th of 2021.
I bet. Yeah, so suddenly everybody started to get serious. So good for them that they started taking action right away, it seems, because it also seems that they had not been. Because HHS investigation showed the group had the following potential violations, because they don't count them as that if you do a settlement. They did not maintain appropriate safeguards to protect the privacy of PHI. And they impermissibly disclosed PHI to unauthorized individuals in violation of the privacy rule. And that's just a blanket thing. Just a blanket statement. You didn't do any of the stuff to protect it, and there's no way that it wasn't an unauthorized disclosure. So basically, it's like we should build our own, sports center. Come on, man. This our own one.
Well,
I'm sure they have it copyrighted, so we can't do that one.
That's true. But, this does open up a very good opportunity for HIPAA compliant trash cans. If somebody wants to go into that business.
That's called shredding companies. They're already in it, But again, it's like, what I'm at a loss of is how many other cases of these kind of just random things, and they may have done tons of stuff with password rules, and they could have all kinds of security on their emails, and we don't know, because it doesn't really mention a lot of those things, and their cap isn't all about risk analysis and so much in depth. But I don't, did they have policy and procedure templates that just says, we're going to securely dispose of all PHI?
I don't know.
Check.
They could have a privacy and security officer that's sitting there going, I've been trying to tell y'all. You never know.
I've been trying to tell you.
But
we do get people coming to us.
I run into that a lot, where the privacy and security officer wants everything right. They know what needs to be done, but they get pushback from the ownership and C-suite to get it done.
Oh yeah. And so often it happens, which is the thing, the number of times that we hear it, and the person that's been begging to get it done whenever they retire or leave for a new job, they make one more stab by having us call and introduce ourselves, because at least they were trying to make it right, and no one else is going to step in and do it. So anyway, so the policies and procedures, so they have their 2-year cap, and it mostly just focuses on policies and procedures for the privacy rule. So this had zero to do with cybersecurity. Zero. There is nothing technical about taking out the trash. You know, it's not like they had robots taking out the trash, and, you know, there'd still be a person involved if the robot was doing it wrong. Now that's a thought. You have robots that scan for the PHI in the trash.
There you go. We'll work on that.
Warning, Will Robinson. Warning. So their policies and procedures shall include, but are not limited to, disposal of all PHI created, received, or maintained. That sounds like it would work.
Mm-hmm.
Protocols for training all workforce members that are involved in handling and disposing of PHI as necessary and appropriate to ensure compliance with the policies and procedures that you are going to create. Review and update necessary policies for physical safeguarding of PHI. Protocols for training that are everybody that's involved with handling PHI to ensure blah, blah, blah. Application of appropriate sanctions against workforce members who fail to comply. So they're on that crash course that we see all the time. You know, we get them when they're like, okay, we got to implement our entire HIPAA program, which you would normally do and pace it out for a practice, you know, put the stake in the ground. We would build a plan that gets, you know, the immediate stuff. And then over 2 years, you build all your, no, they're doing it right now. So that's never fun. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I hope that they're no longer just worried about bare minimum. Is all I can say.
One would hope.
One can only hope. But, you know, to me, I look at it and we spend so much time worried about the cybersecurity and the snooping and all of those things when if we're not even worried about how we throw it out, yep. let's just start there.
Don't throw out the PHI with the bathwater.
You know, and I got people who don't want to sanction employees for anything.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want to make them mad. Well, I get that, but if they're taking advantage of you now and you say nothing, and what's going to happen next? You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
You know, as the parent, you would get that. The lack of consequences kind of negates the whole thing I used to hear all the time. Choices and consequences. Choices and consequences. You need to decide. When all the nieces and nephews were little, you'd see them going, Of course, we had one nephew that made the choice of, came in and bent over like, I'm ready for a spanking. Give it to me. Bring the spoon. So, but you know, that's also the one that they say is a lot like me. So anyway, the big thing that we all need to keep in mind is it's not just the computers. And if people see stuff and then talk about it elsewhere, they don't put it on social media. They just call their hotline. You know, the grapevine still works. Mm-hmm. I know it does where you live.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that happened this weekend up where I'm from. You know, just everybody knows what's going on. So if you are not making sure that those little things are being done, you can do the big stuff all day long. You know, okay, we check the box. We change our passwords every 90 days. We have, I saw somebody said, well, you have 8 character letters, numbers, symbols. I was like, wait, let's stop at 8 characters is the rule. But, you know, you could have big passwords and all this. And then if you're throwing it out and not making sure that your staff knows what to do, wah, wah, wah.
Yep.
Then you end up with us talking about you in a resolution agreement.
Yeah, that can happen.
So I hope everything is good with the OCR director leaving and that they're going to get that resolved. And we're glad to see that it looks like someone else has learned that HIPAA applies even when you're taking out the trash.
Yep. It's not all about the digital stuff.
Well, I mean, we just did privacy assessments and talked about that. It's a much bigger picture. And yes, we have to talk about the technology all the time because that takes the most work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, you always have to be assessing this stuff because, you know, there might have been a time where you weren't doing something that was a problem, or you thought your people weren't doing something that was a problem. And then all of a sudden somebody decides there's no need to take those labels off. Just throw them away.
That takes too much time.
Yeah. See?
Yeah.
See how much time I saved?
You saved everybody some time. Nothing to worry about there. You know, I've always seen it. It's like you do, you know, how especially what we used to do, we go in and develop systems and integrations and all of these kind of things. And you go through the workflow and you make sure you have it all covered and it's all digital. And then it goes live and everything seems to be working fine.
Mm-hmm.
And then when one new person takes over a role, suddenly it's not working anymore.
Yeah. Well, you know, everybody that steps into that role, they have to change it to make it quote unquote better. And then they train the next person who then changes it to make it better, who then trains the next person who changes it. So by the time it gets to the third or fourth person, it doesn't even look like how it started.
Well, I had that happen one time where I had a whole system so that if there was a problem, we would catch it as soon as possible, not on the back end when damage has been done. And it had to do with claims processing and all of that, because, you know, I did that work. But it was where I learned for the first time how important it is to actually talk to the individual who is doing the work, which is why we do those surveys of folks when we're doing our assessment, is ask the people that are using the tool how they're using it. And I will never forget, we had it all down pat. This happened, and then this person would take over, and this would happen. And then all of these checks and balances, at some point, we would get notified if there was a problem.
Mm-hmm.
And I later, when that new person took over, I was getting yelled at because this is not working. It worked fine. So I come back into the office. I go through all the people involved, all the steps. And then I go to the one person that's not involved anymore. Now, everybody's doing exactly what it was that I had designed. But there was one thing that I know that they were doing, that they later added in because it was easier. She says to me when I ask her, and she goes, well, I would do this, and then if I saw this, then I knew I had to go back and check it on this day. Great. That is correct. So how do you remember to go back and check it? Oh, I write on my calendar. Which one? And she pulls a paper calendar out from under her computer. Dang. Right there it is on my written calendar. Did you show them that that's what you were doing? Because we had everything else written down and they're doing that. No, now that you mentioned it, I didn't show them that. Okay, so you didn't tell me that this was something you needed to track. You didn't ask to do it. You know, you found a solution. Good for you. Good for you. But you didn't pass it on. You didn't tell anybody else. And you didn't give us an opportunity to update the system so it would handle it automatically. No, but it didn't cause anybody any problems. It all worked. You're right. You're right. So keep that in mind. That's why you have to ask these questions, because that could have been what happened there. Just like you said, somebody went, there's no need to do this. That takes too much time.
Yeah.
Costs too much money.
Yep. Or somebody could even told them, you know, HIPAA only applies to the data in your computers. Don't worry about it. Who knows? Who knows?
Oh, I didn't even think about that. Okay, now I have to go sit in the corner real quiet and rock.
You know, I mean, how many times do we hear, we don't have anything on our computers, so we don't have to worry about HIPAA?
Okay, that's good enough. I think we've pointed out what you need to go do. Is go check your trash.
That's right.
See See where your trash is and what's going in it.
Some people are going to we need to have a sign-off policy for our trash.
We have to do a trash audit.
Yeah, we had to do weekly trash audits.
That's just funny.
Yeah. All right, folks. Thanks for listening. That is our show for today. Make sure to share us out and go leave us a review. We'd like those too. And remember, for Donna and myself, that HIPAA is not about compliance or your trash, but it is about patient care.
Shouldn't be about your trash.
You've been listening to the Help Me with HIPAA podcast, hosted by Donna Grindle and David Sims. The show created to help you with HIPAA. For more information or to ask us a question, visit our website at helpmewithhipaa.com. Neither Donna Grindle or David Sims are attorneys, and they do not offer binding legal advice concerning regulatory compliance. The information in this podcast should not be relied upon or construed as legal advice in any way. Consult your attorney for legal advice concerning compliance with HIPAA regulations.